Hey guys and gals, friends of YouTube, Love to Fly Helis here. Got a small project. I'm going to show how I built mine. This is just something I threw together. There's probably several ways to doing this. My friend Derek wanted me to show him how I did it on mine. He's wanting to get into towing gliders with his little cub that he built out of foam board, which will be a great cub to do, a great plane to do that with. I'm using my little de Havilland Beaver by Fly Zone, and it worked great. This thing has plenty of power, and of course what we're pulling up right now is a little micro glider, but I have no doubt in my mind this thing right here will pull up a 73 inch wingspan glider without any problem at all, especially with the flaps on it. But anyway, Derek wanted to see what I had designed on my plane, and this is for him or anybody else that's interested in setting up your plane to tow gliders. It is a bunch of fun. We have just had a blast. We laugh more doing this. I mean, we just have a ball playing with this little thing and pulling the glider up and stuff, so it's a lot of fun. What I've got here is a little platform I built on top of my fuselage, and this goes through to the underside. And what I did, I took a piece of this, let me get over here, this rigid plastic. It's not focusing on it for some reason, but anyway, this is something I get through my dental business, sheets of this. It's very rigid and strong, but lightweight, doesn't weigh anything, and I cut pieces out of that to make my little platform, and I put a piece on the inside as well of the plane. But anyway, this little hook here swivels, and I can clip onto it with my tow rope, tow string I should say, on that little plane, and undo it and hook it on real quick, and this stays permanent on my plane. I don't have to worry about it. Now let me get down here and move this back. Let me get on my stuff here. Okay, now Derek, what I used, I took this piece of plastic. Now you can use light plywood, would work too, but if you have some way to get some little thin, hard, rigid plastic like this, it's really lightweight and it works great. And you can cut it, you know, with a razor knife. You can score it and pop it and cut it with a little saw or Dremel, whatever. But anyway, that works good. And then what I did, as far as the bolt that goes through it, I have a whole drawer full of all kinds of extra stuff off of planes over the last 8 years of my flying and crashing and building and salvaging. So anyway, this was a type of control horn that comes with like the Phoenix models and then some of your bigger ones. I really like them too. They work well. But anyway, this goes through the wing and clamps down on the wing surface, and then this little black wing right here screws onto the top of that, and then that's what your clevis hooks to on your control surfaces. Well, what I did, I just took the screw out of one of those sets, and what I did, I took this little black hook or plate, whatever you want to call it up there, and I screwed it on here, but I screwed it all the way down against the head on this thing, and it fits nice and snug, and this whole thing rotates. And then what I did, I had some of these are actually little nylon blind nuts that I had out of something. I used those. I put one on each side, and the reason being is you want this screw to go through something hard to keep it from wearing into your styrofoam on your plane. So what I did was I drilled a hole big enough for the small side of this, and I glued this in on that plate that I put underneath it, and then I did the same thing on the top. So that bolt goes through two of these hard plastic blind nuts and keeps it from tearing into the styrofoam. The other thing you could do that I thought of too, and Derek, I know as much as you build, you've got to have a bunch of spare parts laying around from servos. They come with these round servo horns, and I very seldom ever use them, but they work great for stuff like this. Well, here's something else you can do. You can cut your plate to go on the inside of the plane, whatever size you want it. Drill a hole to where the little washer part of that fits. Glue that into your plate and then mount that on the inside of the plane, and then you can take your bolt and stick it up through there from the inside if you want to. Well, if you do that, then you're just going to have to screw this on the end. But anyway, long story short, you can put one of those in the bottom underneath, and then one on top like this. And then you can take a piece of this brass tubing, you can cut it with a Dremel tool, real easy, a little bitty pipe cutter, whatever. That will fit right into those. So what you've got is, let me get my other piece up here. And what you'd want to do is put your bottom piece or inside piece in the plane first and get it. I glued mine with epoxy, and then you could run this tube down through there and set it in there and see how much is sticking out and cut this off accordingly to sandwich the top. And then what you do is put this, glue this to a piece of this plastic or whatever you're going to use, light plywood, on the top piece and sandwich that in there. Then you've got a brass tube for your bolt to go through all the way through there. Long story short, what you're trying to do is keep the threads from this bolt and eating up the foam on your plane. So you can do that a couple different ways. These little plastic blind nuts, if you don't have any of them, there's lots of little stuff like this at like Lowe's, Home Depot, and their little specialty drawers. They've got little, this is just a little plastic bushing. And what this come with was a plain kit that you glued this into the balsa for the wing bolts to go through so it didn't eat up the balsa wood. I have a bunch of those, and those work great too. So anything to make a bushing for this bolt to go through to keep it from wearing out. And then basically you want a plate on the inside of the plane and then a plate on the outside of the plane sandwiching that together. And I glued mine with epoxy on the inside, and then I glued the one on the outside with epoxy. Then you can also, once they're glued, you can drill little holes. Let me get my camera back up here again. I didn't do it on this one yet because I'm pulling a lightweight glider, but I did do it on my camera mount. I'll show you here in a minute. You could drill, once these are glued in place and they're in alignment with each other, you cut them the same size, then you could drill a little hole through this top one on each side, or all four corners if you wanted to. Get some little tiny long skinny screws, like the screws that come out of a servo case. Those work great. They're long and they're skinny, little bitty. Drill them holes here and then run them all the way through and screw them into the plate on the inside of the plane. They're glued and screwed together, and it won't come apart. You could pull a pretty heavy plane up with that by doing it that way. Anyway, that's how I did my tow hook. I made this where it would swivel to put less stress. This is just, let me see, it's about 2 inches behind the CG center of gravity on this, but it doesn't really have to be on the center of gravity. It does need to be on the top of your plane. Don't try to tow a glider hooked to the tail end. That doesn't work very well. It puts too much torque on your tail itself, and it'll drag it more or less, like a rock tied to it. So you don't want to do that. You want your cord on the top of your fuselage, and if you'll look up real gliders and real tow planes, this is where it is. It's on top of the plane, and then your line, it just lays, beside the rudder on the way back. So that's how you want to do that. And if there's anything else, any more help I can give you, just holler at me, Derek or anybody. Now, while we're on here, I'm going to flip this over, and I'll show you. Get this zoomed back out. This is what I did for my GoPro mount or my Turnigy camera mount. Of course, now this is on my Beaver. Derek, your plane would probably be easy to get to the inside of it. Mine was not. As you can see, there's all kinds of stuff in there. But what I did find, there's a groove between this outer layer of foam and this inside layer of foam. So I cut a piece of this plastic the same width as that, and I'm thinking, okay, how far will that go in there? So I shoved it up in that gap. It fits very snug even without the glue. So I put it in and then marked it to the length I wanted, and then I cut that off. So then I cut the outside one almost the same. I did just slightly shorter because of this coupler or latch right here. So what I did, I put epoxy glue on that. I shoved it all the way up in that groove. I measured how long it was, and then I measured from here get my hand out of the way, I measured from the edge of this, and I measured back to how long it went to on the back side of the plane. So then I can mark that. Well, then I know I can put this piece right centered over it. So I glued that on the inside, and then I cut my piece for the outside. I glued it to the fuselage. I cleaned the paint off. If you got a painted fuselage on styrofoam, you're going to want to clean the paint off. I epoxy glued that to the fuselage, and then I drilled 2 holes here in the front and put the long skinny screws, and I screwed them all the way through and all the way through the inside piece of this plastic, so it's sandwiched on here. I did 2 on the front. I didn't bother doing the back corners because I stuck my camera mount on here with the adhesive back that it comes with. But then I also got little small screws and small washers. You want really tiny heads so it doesn't interfere with your bracket. And I screwed those through to the inside piece. Now I started out to do the 4 corners, but I couldn't do that because of the way it locks in. But I could put them in the center, and then on my camera bracket, all I had to do is take my Dremel and just barely bevel the little track that goes around this. I beveled each corner a little bit, and it slides right over those screws and locks right in. That camera is solid as a rock, and it's not going to come off. Before I was bungeeing it and taping it because I was scared to death the sticky back would fall off, and I didn't want to lose my camera in the lake or something. So anyway, that's how I built that too. So lightweight rigid plastic works great. If not, light piece of plywood would work. Just use washers so your screws don't pull through the wood or the plastic, and to tighten all this stuff down with. And it's very easy to do, especially on these foam planes like you build, Derek. And mine was kind of a pain on the top to get to because of all the tubes and stuff in my wing spars. There's 3 tubes in these wings on this Beaver, but I think you probably would be able to get to the inside of yours because your whole wing comes off, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, this was the more, I had to pull my wings off to get up in there and put that inside piece on. But it works very well. I have no doubt that this thing will hold stout enough to pull up a pretty decent sized glider. And we're going to find out here soon. I'm going to buy one here not too far down the road. And as far as making the brackets with your bolts and stuff, just like I said, make sure you put it in some kind of hard plastic or the metal tube to make yourself a guide for that bolt to go through so your threads doesn't waller out the foam, because it'll eat that up. So you got to have something rigid on the top and bottom to sandwich that, to bolt that to. Anyway, there you go, guys. It works very well. If you have any more questions, feel free to send me a question, leave me a comment, or send me a personal message, whatever, and I'll try to help you out all I can. I do quite a bit of this little goofy stuff like this and design it myself, and so far everything I've done works really well. So anyway, I hope this helped you guys out, and you get you a little tow plane and some gliders, and get your buddy that you fly with and have a ball. We just have a blast with these things. So alright, guys, take care. Happy flying to you.